Hello, everybody. Looks like we're live and ready to get started. I'm Jess, and I'll be hosting and helping to host with Jonathan today about GPU audio and NVIDIA. And we have a fantastic guest, Jeremy Krinitt, who is going to be helping answering a bunch of questions about how GPU audio and NVIDIA are working together. We also have Sasha, who is one of the co-founders. So hi everybody.
Guys.
Welcome today. I know, Jeremy, that you've had a pretty extensive background, so I'd love for you to kind of introduce yourself a little bit to the audience.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Jeremy Krinitt, and I do developer relations at NVIDIA. So I work with partners like GPU Audio when they're adopting our technologies, just to make sure that they're successful. To help them with technical questions, to do these kind of events. To help to get visibility to the good work that they're doing. So prior to working at NVIDIA, I've done work in AI analytics. I've done some work in the video game space, and my background overall in schooling was in computer graphics, which included video processing and audio engineering as well. So I've done things like tape-based multi-track recording, familiar with MIDI signaling and those kind of elements. So I've always had a great love for audio engineering and audio production.
That's fantastic. What a great background. I feel like all of us have some form of audio training or interest. I mean, obviously, look at Jonathan's studio setup there.
Yeah, this is the office. If I call it a studio, somebody in the audience will send me hate mail. Because if they see my acoustic panels just sitting on the floor like that, they'll be like, "What are you producing over there exactly?" But yeah, this is our all-purpose office. But yeah, we love audio.
Awesome.
So Jeremy, yeah, thanks for meeting you. I could just have like a little anecdotal note about Jeremy.
Of course.
Jeremy is probably the coolest developer relations person I've ever met. We've had such a great conversation, and one of the challenges with GPU audio, is coming out with the technology that's using, somebody else's hardware in a new and unique way. And there was sort of a long-standing dream of the co-founders to want to, collaborate with NVIDIA. And for a while, it kind of seemed like, well, how would we do that? You know what I mean? So I feel very fortunate that when we met Jeremy, and actually subsequently, I've realized that there's a lot of people working at NVIDIA that are actually deeply into audio. They have like former Avid employees, that were back from the beginning of Avid and DigiDesign and stuff like that. And it's just been an amazing journey getting to know the people at NVIDIA and understanding, how dedicated a lot of them are to the future of audio. And, it's sparked a lot of really interesting conversations. I'll put it that way,
Yeah, it's not unusual that I'm on a call with a colleague and they've got a guitar hanging behind them on the wall. Lots of musicians, lots of people who care deeply about audio, in addition to sort of their day jobs, which is working on GPUs and really accelerating a wide variety of different types of content processing.
That's awesome. So I'd like to jump in to start with our question portion. For those of you who are watching, we are going to do a bit of Q&A internally, and then we'll open it up to you guys to have any questions that you'd like to have answered live. So just to start, Jeremy, I'm curious to see how you would explain what's happening between GPU audio and the NVIDIA partnership and kind of how that came to be. What are your guys' first goal of having a partnership together?
Yeah, so really the goal that I have is to ensure that GPU audio can be as successful as possible in using our technologies. So there's a lot of different possibilities of ways we can go, but at its core, it's really ensuring that that GPU audio can take the GPU, which is this massive capability for processing content, and use it to the best of what their goals are around providing capabilities to their customers. And so, there's all these things that you can accomplish with the GPU, and I think there's a long runway of things that we can collaborate on. But I know the starting point is really, the massive processing of the GPU and being able to use that for audio processing, particularly the stuff that's really challenging from an audio engineering perspective, to do that stuff in real time, to do it, to meet the expectations that that professional audio studio producers have for their audio production.
Wow, that's a pretty hefty partnership, but I mean, it seems like you guys are doing great things to make that happen, right? So, as far as GPU use cases, how have they really changed over the last decade? Like, where do you see GPUs being used today? Is it more of an exaggeration to say that GPUs are the most important digital interface that exists today? Like, what are your thoughts around that, and what GPU audio is doing to kind of bring that to the forefront?
Yeah, so GPUs are used for so many different purposes. It's hard to kind of encapsulate that into one answer. If we look back to where they began, it was really primarily focused on 3D graphics and enabling those to happen in a way that just wasn't possible computing them in other places within the computer. More recently, it's being used more and more for other purposes as well. Certainly things like video production that I'm involved with. But also, a lot of stuff around AI. And, this is not to discount, what GPUs can do in gaming. I love Destiny 2 and Elden Ring as much as anyone. But, we're seeing really significant growth in content creation, in AI and data processing. Really, any compute that is really significant can generally be done better on GPUs. So, it is an important part of where innovation is happening in computing. And so some of the most exciting news that we see around what computers are able to do is really, enabled by GPUs.
Yeah, we were even talking yesterday, by phone when we were talking about this live stream. We were discussing, the breadth of like how in the last 10 years, especially, how GPU usage has really expanded, beyond, what you would consider, I guess, a traditional GPU use case. So, to me, it's really interesting to think about the fact that, there is this massive infrastructure that exists in the world today of GPUs that can be leveraged, for other purposes. And, and you mentioned a handful of different areas, but audio is definitely one of them, which happens to be the one that we're in. But when it comes to creating digital infrastructure that can be used for other purposes, like what are some other interesting things that you've heard about in terms of GPU use cases that are outside the box? I know you mentioned AI just now.
Yeah, there's so many places where AI is being applied, both in terms of helping us to do things that we're trying to accomplish. So things like transcription, when I can speak and it's turned into text and it's done so accurately, that it can be translated, that it can be turned back into speech in another language, AI in visuals, AI in audio. I think all of these are really just sort of scratching the surface of what's possible. But we're starting to see some of the signs of what might be possible in the future. And so it's a really exciting time to be working in AI because it's moving so quickly. And we're really trying to build tools, not necessarily to deliver products. Our partners are expert in their particular spaces, but really trying to help our partners to more quickly get to the places where they want to be. So NVIDIA today has more software engineers than it has hardware engineers. Though we're known for our hardware, really the core of what we're trying to do is to build this full stack that enables partners to be able to engage at different places and to be able to accelerate their ability to innovate. And so we build all these things that help you to interface with the GPU. And this is a perfect example of that, where we're being able to get audio onto the GPU to do so very quickly and to be able to use this sort of massive compute that's there. We're just starting what's possible. And when we start looking at AI, we can start thinking about things like instruments that never existed, or recreating sounds from the past. That we love the audio, when we hear it, and we don't have access to that hardware anymore. But being able to provide this as a tool to artists out there that are creating these particular sounds, I think is really exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and Sasha will probably have some thoughts about this too. We when we went to the NAMM show recently, it was really interesting to be hanging out with NVIDIA and people from like Soundwide and Isotope, all at the same time in the same community. It felt like this really interesting sort of coalition or, nexus, not like a legal coalition, but just like a friendship of people that want to see, what GPUs can do for audio. Because there's a topic that comes up a lot, in the forums when we're discussing with people about, okay, is GPU, our GPU, is the GPU computation really necessary for doing like basic types of plugins like compressors or like, like an equalizer and things like that? Or is this more of like a future forward sort of facing technology, where we can build, stuff that has never been seen before? Obviously you can tell by the tone of the way that I'm speaking that I have a passion for the latter, right?
Yeah.
Because I really see, this massive, power source. It's kind of like a sci-fi movie where you discover like the tree of life or something, and then you just figure out like, oh, like all we have to do is tap into that and we can power a whole bunch of other things. Or so anyways, the point is that I get really excited when I think about the possibility of powering up interesting projects like you were talking about. When we were at the NAMM show, one of the subjects that came up was virtual modeling, for instance, virtual modeling of circuitry and things like that, to emulate, to do more powerful emulations of vintage hardware. And one of the interesting things about that was, well, GPU audio, our scheduler has the ability to basically speed things up and run these massive computational tasks in real time, for DSP. But it can also be applied, in areas to AI and machine learning, which some people are exploring now. So when it comes to hardware emulation and stuff like that, how do you imagine a parallel, Jeremy, between, or Sasha, between hardware emulation on machine learning and AI for audio, and the applications that AI machine learning has already been doing for generative art and things like that? Like, do you see a relationship here? Is there a correlation?
Yeah, I've Sasha, you want to speak to it, certainly.
Yeah. So first of all, regarding this stuff, I think like GPU audio is really the future platform to power up pretty much anything, because in comparison with the CPU, it has so much power, so many cores, and it also supports so many SDKs, like not just CUDA SDK, but the other SDKs, linear algebra, and the other stuff that can potentially describe pretty much any process that is happening in the world. So it can power up things like guitar emulators, like with all of those strings and complex, processes with all of the equations pretty easily. And what's more important, it could be I could imagine that it is possible to make like the artificial orchestra of all of the emulated instruments at some point. There are some good emulations of guitar and the other instruments like violin that already exist, but you can't run them all together. But imagine at some point in the future, because of these huge, massive power of devices such as GPU, we can actually orchestrate things in the different way. So in my opinion, this is something that GPU can actually bring alive. Like, this is not like just a dream. We can actually power up those products with the time, definitely. And I was actually wanted to follow up another another topic, industry-wise topic, how GPUs and how NVIDIA sees it can be connected with the pro audio or with the audio, with the professional audio world. And one thing that completely blown my mind a year ago or 2 years ago, it was RTX Voice product. Now it is called in the different way, but I just want to hear some perspective from the NVIDIA guys. Like, what do you think about the adaptive noise canceling products, or products that could be great use in the broadcasting and live industry, so-called live industry? Like, what is the future? How do you see these guys?
Yeah, I think I've already been amazed by what's been possible in using AI to affect audio, and I think that the audio denoising example is a perfect example of this, where audio engineers always have to sort of struggle with the source audio, right? In a studio it's great, but if you're out in the field collecting audio, it's not always clean. It's not always perfect, environment for producing what you're trying to produce. So being able to use AI to remove background sound, or to remove reverb, or feedback, or other types of things, really means that you've got a new tool in the arsenal to be able to get closer to what your vision is for what you're trying to produce. In the case of the AI denoising that's a part of the Maxine technologies at NVIDIA, this is AI that's been trained specifically to reduce particular sound profiles. And over the last couple of years, we've added to the number of sound profiles. So it's able to eliminate things like wind and fans and typing and a lot of the sounds that we might have as a part of our soundtrack that we don't necessarily want to have be in the audio. So I think there too, it's just kind of at the beginning of what's possible, and it's able to sometimes deal with more extreme situations than traditional audio processing has been able to. But I think what we're going to see is that you're going to use both. You're going to use all of these, as has always been the case with these audio tools, to use the right tool for the job to get to
Absolutely.
what you're trying to create.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If I can follow up on that, you actually bring out a really great point that comes up a lot when we're talking with industry people, is okay, so it's really interesting to me because you guys have made so much progress at NVIDIA, in terms of this active noise cancellation and noise correction. There's only like maybe one or two significant companies in pro audio that are using similar technology at scale. And, just not to insult the indies and stuff like that out there, but like Isotope, companies like that are doing like at scale, this type of thing. It's exciting to see. But it's funny because everything you're talking about with Maxine, it's mostly seems to be applying to like live streaming, Zoom calls, and things like that. It's something that the technology industry has glommed onto, and even noise correction has its own category of tech now. And it's funny because it's like, I feel like the idea that GPUs can now be used in a custom way to take all of that audio stuff that was sort of relegated to these gaming platforms or these Zoom call platforms and things like that, and move that into the pro audio space is really a cool opportunity because, like what we're doing, it's not to toot our own horn or anything like that, but if you were able to take embedded GPUs and embed them into a piece of hardware, then there's no reason that somebody couldn't come out, next year and produce, a noise canceling, vocal audio box of some sort, or like a field recorder or an interface, that's actually using a combination of what you guys are doing with, like a low level implementation that we're doing. And then somebody can now finally bridge that gap between these industries, and that's a big thing for me. Because I've constantly been inspired by NVIDIA and similar companies in the sense of where tech is going and the way that it's getting adopted. In the pro audio world is often such an island. I would love to see that tech be able to sync up like that, and I think that there's a real opportunity, especially in the hardware area. I don't know, any thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, so I would also follow up if you don't mind, guys. So this is actually quite amazing. The last 3 years, we see that how GPU fits a new device that actually provide a new value for, I would say, like regular consumers, regular users, because with the pandemic, with the like necessity, when people need to do their job, to have a calls with Zoom, with Google Meet and the other stuff, it is the first ever people, like regular people, they first ever understood they need some noise canceling software, right? And this is very interesting. What is the role of the hardware for this software, right? We can see some great tools such as CrispAI and the others that provides noise canceling features for Zoom as a plugin, but I feel like GPU can do something else. And I just recently saw, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's also a part of Maxine, but this is a complete set of GPU-powered tools when you can have a translation of your speech with the various languages simultaneously, streaming all of them together, applied with noise canceling, applied with the feature when you can, talk not into the camera but somewhere else, it will fix that. It's just completely mind-blowing, and I really want to see more cases where GPU can power new generation, products and tools for regular people. This is definitely something that I'm looking for.
Yeah, there's a ton of work that's being done by the researchers at NVIDIA in trying to build some of these things, and really it's trying to sort of spark ideas of what's possible in making this kind of interaction better. A lot of us spend most of our days talking like this, and if we can improve it a little bit, it makes it that much easier to communicate. And when I'm working with partners, one of the really exciting things in both adopting these technologies as well as working with organizations like GPU Audio, to Jonathan, to what you said, the ability to run these things in a variety of different places, whether it's on the laptop that I have in front of me or at the edge in little embedded devices. So being able to make a hardware device, we've got our Jetson platform and one of the really great things that NVIDIA has done strategically is to allow the software to run across the whole range of different hardware devices, from a little like $100 Jetson device that has like everything that you need to do AI, all the way up to supercomputers, being able to run CUDA software. And you can do it across the whole range. Obviously, much faster on a supercomputer than on a Jetson, but you've got this range of being able to sort of scale your technology. But there's a lot of interesting technologies that are going to apply in different ways, and I think the whole subject of running things in the right place is one of the really exciting areas for this technology, where you can run stuff on your computer, you can run it in the cloud, and it's going to make these things much more available to audiences that really want these kind of capabilities of improving their audio. Because I don't have an audio studio that I'm sitting in, but I want my audio to come across as good as it can, and I want to make sure that I'm communicating clearly when I'm talking with colleagues.
Well, it seems like we all have an interest in audio, right? Whether, like you just said, whether or not we're in the studio or we're listening to something, and I think for most people, it is the audio that really pulls them out if it's not of high quality, right? And so it's super important, and I can understand why everybody here has been attracted to that, myself included. So I'm curious to know from you, Jeremy, and then also from Sasha and Jonathan, what has really attracted you guys to the concept of audio processing overall? Like, what gets you really excited? And then I'm interested to know, too, the future of NVIDIA's plans surrounding new hardware, the cloud, maybe Omniverse. Like, what other future or further potential do you see in advancing that pro audio and bringing kind of the pro and the consumer side together?
And one of the things I'm most excited about is just what's possible with audio. So, as we've seen with graphics, where we're moving things onto a GPU opens up all new different possibilities. I mean, we know Moore's law, and every year and a half or so that compute doubles. But with moving things to the GPU, we're talking about 10, 100, 1,000 times the processing. And so it's not a question of just doing reverb or similar kind of effects. The whole horizon opens up of what you can do, and I'm so excited about what these companies that are and individuals out there that are writing software and creating new tools for music producers and audio producers to be able to grab and run with. I think there's a really bright future for just what's possible in general. And to your point about Omniverse, this has been a huge project within NVIDIA, and a lot of it is centered around sort of recreation of reality. And Jonathan had mentioned before being able to simulate circuits and such, and this sort of feeds into the same place where being able to really replicate what's happening in the physical world, but to do it in a digital realm means that you have so much more flexibility of how you can experiment and more quickly get to your vision of what you want to create. And so creating new effects, creating new instruments, being able to simulate the audio, and then a lot of interesting work in using AI to make that faster. Still, it's just sort of beginning, and it's going to be amazing what artists are creating in the next few years with all of these new tools.
But that I know Sasha probably has a response too, but that's the kind of stuff that really gives me chills, is the idea about this horizon expanding, right? And I hope that the audio people that are listening will sort of hear that, in what Jeremy and what you just said, because it's a matter of it's a matter of expanding what's possible from such a fundamental level, that it has the ability to fundamentally change the way that we do business, in audio. And I know that that's kind of like a simultaneously an exciting thing and a scary thing to hear, if you're in the audio industry. But I think it's pretty clear, like for me, this concept of Omniverse, right? This concept of, co-present assets, across multiple platforms, simulations of the world. I mean, NVIDIA has publicized that you guys are building a digital twin of Earth. It's just like, it's like the most epic thing that I've ever heard of. And, if music and if audio and other industries want to be able to participate in that future, I think that there needs to be a way for them to link into the standards, that are being used for that kind of stuff. And this kind of gets into like metaverse talks and stuff like that. And I don't want to derail and push into that. But, when we're talking about standards, NVIDIA has a standard, that's reliable for this field, and that the future of everything is sort of, to some degree or another, pinned to it or like related to it, right? And that's what gets me excited, is that blue sky kind of thinking, about, how does this actually change the way that we do business in a way that's going to make it easier, that's going to make it more accessible, it's going to bring more users, it's going to bring more holistic environments for music creation. There's a lot of really cool possibilities.
Yeah.
But I won't get into all of those. I'll let Sasha and you speak.
Yeah. With NVIDIA, I mean, the standards around Omniverse aren't NVIDIA standards. They're public standards, and they're ones that we're trying to support, because ultimately we want this to be a platform that partners can tie into. And, I've already started to see some of the really exciting workflows that can be created by multiple partners tying into Omniverse, and they get the benefit of the connection between them where they didn't have to do anything extra to get that. And so, on the 3D side, working with USD, this is something that Pixar invented, and we've been trying to support, because ultimately we want this to create interoperability. And so, we want the assets to be able to get into Omniverse and back out again if you want to use another tool for something else, but ultimately to create workflows that hadn't been thought of previously. And I think that goes for the audio side as well. Being able to create pipelines and being able to use tools in a way that allows people to create new things, and and to use tools in different ways, I think is really exciting.
Yeah, from my perspective, like technical guy, I think like Omniverse is that way cool. It is not just because it supports through the SDKs, through the public SDKs, like Jeremy mentioned, USD and the other stuff. It is connecting things together. It's connecting technologically. It is connecting people, creators together through the products that work through those SDKs and APIs, collaboratively, online, real time, using this USD format or any other kind of bridging between the platforms, bridging between the products and solutions. For example, Unreal Engine now is a part of the Omniverse, and this is really cool. Because almost everything that is coming with Unreal Engine to the Omniverse can be powered up within the Omniverse. And for example, I know there is a far more, advanced audio framework when it comes to game audio. There are some things that you can use to create your 3D worlds. You can assign some scenarios. You can synthesize things there in the Omniverse, despite just Unreal Engine features and Unreal Engine features bridged to the Omniverse. You can also do audio to face and the other stuff. So I see there are too many things that are coming independently from various from various companies and standards, and even indie creators, developers. And we see our role here is actually one of the companies that can also bridge the pro audio world to the Omniverse, because Omniverse it's not like metaverse. Don't mix, please don't mix those two terms. Metaverse is more like for those people who want to experience XR VR with a headset or without any headset, just like playing a game or chatting with everyone. Omniverse is more for creators, for people who's more like creating something in the virtual world with the tools that exist in the Omniverse. So we as GPU Audio, we see that we can bring something that is more connected to the pro audio, which means that anything that could be built with a GPU audio, anything that could be powered up with the GPU audio, when it comes to the Omniverse, I mean, once we can implement the bridge to the Omniverse, it can be launched for VST3 interface, for, I don't know, Clap or Omniverse. It doesn't matter, because we are going to support them all. So for pro audio industry, it is very important, because you can have the same experience of creating something in both worlds. Like in the traditional case, in traditional world, like you work in the DAW, or with the time you can start creating in the Omniverse, and this will keep your workflow the same way. And this is something that will connect you with the outer world that is bigger than the traditional one that you saw in your DAW previously. So I think like this is definitely huge.
And connecting that with the whole virtual environment and the ability to tie the audio to the visuals, I think, I mean, this sort of loops back to what Jess said at the beginning of, that audio is really the basis for so much of what we feel and experience. And, getting that right in the 3D space is key to creating an immersive environment and really creating the right mood. And, I've often loved it just, in film and television and the audio production that goes into creating a mood and goes into really making us feel more about what is happening in music and television. And, it really helps to create the entirety of the experience. So, I see a lot of amazing opportunity around creating experiences in tying the visual and audio together.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than watching a movie and the audio just doesn't match up quite right. It really just takes you out of it, right?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you guys if we could just take a minute, though, to explain the scheduler to those who are watching, and kind of the inspiration or design behind it, how it actually came to be, and the potentials of like real-time processing and the solution of that.
Well, I see this is, I'm actually one of the guys that can speak about that. So the scheduler is a core technology, which means that it is implemented on the top of the instruction set architecture. This is the code that usually a GPU works with. And we implemented the scheduler in that way because we needed to solve some fundamental challenges that were not solved before us. And to address them, particularly, this is the latency. And this is the way that audio algorithms work, like standard audio algorithms work in the industry. So the first thing is that we needed to understand how we can pack all of the data to the GPU, because GPUs are not natural designed to work at low latencies. They were originally designed to work with a 60 hertz refresh rate, standard refresh rate of monitors. And what Scheduler does, it pack all of your Pro Audio plugins or whatever the product it would be, not just a plugin, maybe something else. It packs all of the data. It sends all of the data using the PCI Express streaming, and then it processes whatever it is inside of those plugins or software you run, and then it returns back on time. And the second thing is that GPUs are not natural fit for audio algorithms, because 95% of traditional algorithms, they have a feedback in its mathematical topological implementation. So it can be parallelized, it can be run on all of the amount of cores GPUs have. And the idea was to find better designs of those audio algorithms, not just FFTs, but actually like filters, like FIR, IR filters, specific components that is used in compressors, in reverbs, and in choruses, etc. To find the better designs that could be executed by GPUs faster. So the scheduler, what it does, it packs all of the data and it uses very specifically designed DSP blocks to implement the sound effects or whatever you need to do. Maybe you need to just to run neural networks and to do your machine learning powered adaptive noise canceling. It does not matter. Scheduler does it all at low latencies. So basically, this is a very brief description of the technology.
Yeah, this is super critical to having this technology work at all, and there's a lot of effort all the time around the latency. Because ultimately we want this stuff to not only be applicable to processing audio offline, but to processing audio live in studio or processing for live production at in-person events and such as well. And it's not just a question of the processing, but we've got to consider the audio moving around in different places as well. I mean, if we're doing a live production on the internet as we are now, it's not just the amount of time that it takes for my video and audio to get up to the servers, but then to get down to the viewer. And there's a lot of places where latency is introduced, and we want to reduce all of those as much as we can. So what GPU audio is doing in reducing that latency on the hardware, I think is really critical to the whole pipeline of what we've got to be able to do in order to do audio production, not just on your machine in the studio, but also, in other places as well.
That sounds really interesting, right? Like the idea of kind of upgrading the workflow. Although I'm sure a lot of people have very efficient workflows and they've created, little side doors for them to be able to do their work. It sounds like, yeah, it sounds like this is more of opening up a straightforward way for anybody to step in and do that work without piecemealing it together. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, Jess, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, like we talk about this all the time, and I'm sure that the folks over at NVIDIA talk about this too when they were designing Omniverse. Is this idea of like, okay, sometimes the accepted standards that we have in the way that we do things, we don't realize that we are being held back because we've developed workarounds that have become such a deep endemic part of our workflow that we don't realize that those workarounds are actually limitations anymore, or things that we think are features are actually workarounds. You know what I mean? They are limitations. They're workarounds because of limitations. That's a better way of putting it. But if you can localize a lot of that processing, such as like on the cloud or something like that, I think you can mitigate a lot of those issues. Jeremy, is it similar, in that sense to what you guys did with Omniverse? Because with all like the co-present, like the thing that really struck me about Omniverse in particular was the real-time lighting assets, being interoperable between different platforms. That was probably my first exposure to Omniverse and kind of how that got me excited. And, that obviously has implications, I think, for, other workflows such as audio, even though we wouldn't want to get too super deep into that, I guess. But Jeremy, what do you think about that?
I think whole workflows have the potential of changing for the better. And it's not forcing a workflow in a particular direction. It's just opening up possibilities. Like when you start talking about the ability to do things in real time, to layer on, these layers of processing and to do it real time, ultimately what it means is that you're able to do non-destructive editing. And, this is beneficial not only for 3D, but for audio as well, where, we can experiment with something and we don't have to bake it into the audio. We can experiment, we can see what it sounds like, we can decide if that's the path we want to take, and we can continue forward to add more and more layers to create the soundscape that we're trying to create without having to have it be one direction in terms of our production. So this is something that should be flexible. It's like when we saw undo added to Photoshop. That was revolutionary for me because before when I was making changes, I had to be much more careful. Now I can be much more experimental in terms of what I'm doing, and we want to see the same thing happen for audio engineers as well.
Yeah, this is something that's come up a lot, with audio types, is how can we get the processing power we need to be able to do what we need to do, especially with like the advent of multi-channel audio, immersive mixing and things like that, those types of environments. Which, by the way, next week or 2 weeks from today, we'll have a stream where we're going to bring in Jacqueline, the CEO, as well as Dylan from Mach 1 Technologies. We're going to talk about, the potentials of real-time immersive mixing, with like super high bandwidth, throughput technology with GPUs. So, I think that non-destructive element of the conversation is such a huge part of it. And I don't think everybody who's working in mixing and audio really realizes that this is holding the industry back in that way. But once it's gone and once the limits have been lifted, that's when I think things get really exciting.
Yeah, I would like to add my 2 cents here. I'm actually the guy that keeps talking the way, like with the GPU audio now, we can unlock your things for $900. Like you can purchase a laptop with RTX 3060 and you can do things beyond. You can actually do with a CPU based setup or with a DSP setup particularly. And with GPU audio, we are not just providing like just non-destructive workflow. We also providing you with new opportunities. The more products will appear GPU audio powered, the more products you can run with your GPU, and these products cannot be run well with the CPU. I mean, like CPU is not a good fit for neural networks processing, like machine learning, AI. Naturally, like everyone knows that. And also spatial audio thing, like if you want to process spatial audio, you usually work with the 64 channels, right? So this is how you have your stereo track processed, your problem size multiplied by factor of 32. To multiply by 32, it's 64, right? So you need this amount of power unlocked inside your machine. And this is actually great news that you have just $900 laptop, RTX 3060, power this thing up, and you have it running within 1 millisecond latency, processing everything on time without glitches, without dropouts.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say at least 64 channels, you know what I mean? Because I know guys who are working in, double, triple, quadruple that nowadays, with super heavy mixes.
Oh yeah.
But I do think that the lack of, if we want something to become more commonplace, right? If people really want immersive audio to become more common, for instance, there needs to be, processing standards in place, that make it easier for people to, produce these types of plugins, or even standalone softwares, that are going to take advantage of it and make this type of technology more accessible to actually create. I think, hats off to Dolby, obviously, for their hard work and, kind of getting more of a mainstream conversation going with immersive mixing. But there's still like this whole other world of immersive audio that's dealing with channel counts that are just astronomical, and hyper realistic impulse responses and things like that. I think one of my favorite companies out there is called MH Acoustics. Shout out MH and Gary and Steve. Everybody, you guys are awesome. But basically, they make a microphone called the Eigen mic, and their latest version of the mic is a 64 channel microphone. It's a ball probably the size of my fist with 64 capsules in it. So you imagine running a session where you have 10 of those, right, set up in a large hall or something like that, so you can do 6 degrees of freedom, virtual reality, interactive stuff, and the amount of heavy processing that needs to take place on the local computer in order to even just monitor that back reliably, record it, and get those workflows moving faster is just very high. So yeah, exciting times, to kind of be a part of this technology swing. And one day I hope to see an NVIDIA laptop that's an audio workstation. I know that's kind of like a big, a big ask. You know what I mean? So Jeremy, if you can make that happen, that'd be sweet. You know, I'll gladly, you know, pay for all the flights that it takes to make it happen. But yeah, I mean, can you guys imagine, you know, audio workstations that are popping out that are like specifically geared towards this kind of stuff, you know, and other hardware for spatial, would be amazing.
Well, I think this sort of follows in the thread of the history of audio production and making all of these capabilities much more democratized. So moving to digital meant that now we could have digital audio workstations, and you know, moving to be able to do those many tracks of audio and layering on effects means that it's going to be even more people that can produce content. And you know, I mean, the whole move to being able to stream in order to build an audience and such. You know, it means that everyone has the ability to improve the content that they're producing, and you know, it just means more and more content for all of us to enjoy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, democratization is key. You know, I think that's the way that we open things up, and that's the only way that it's going to progress, in my opinion.
Kind of leads me into my last question. I mean, I didn't want to cut anybody off here because this has been so informative. For those of you who are watching, if you do have any questions, we do have a little bit of time, but until we get some questions coming in, I wanted to know from all of you, you know, what sort of dream partnerships do you see here? Because this, like, what I'm hearing from all of you is this is more becoming like a collaborative effort of different companies, different technologies. And I think that it would be interesting to know, maybe from you first, Jeremy, like from NVIDIA, you guys are now partnering with GPU audio and like moving more into the software space. Like, is there anybody else that you can see that would be complementary to that would be kind of a dream partnership to pull all of this together as a bigger endeavor?
You know, I think it necessarily requires all of the pieces and parts to have this be meaningful for people who are producing audio content. So, you know, as Jonathan said, microphones all the way through to speakers. You know, all of these things, you know, are part of the pipeline that that creates this content. And you know, I think more and more of the production is happening on the computer. And you know, it means that more people can do it. It means that more people can elevate you know, what they can accomplish and create closer to what their ideal is for the thing that they want to create. But you know, I think that you know, I'd like to see, you know, so many organizations in the industry, you know, come together to create new ideas and to put new tools into hands of producers, so that you know, we continue to advance the ability to create new content.
I can also speak about that. So I'm the techie guy, so I always speak about the APIs, SDKs, and how to bring things to everyone. So, you know, if you asked me this question like 2 months ago, I would probably say like we need like Isotope or Native Instruments to collaborate to bring, I don't know, some best-selling product, GPU audio powered, get rid of CPU usage, like lowering latencies, making more stuff running, etc. But now, there are big news in the industry, like particularly in the pro audio. There's a new uprising standard, CLAP, and there are two companies that are doing this standard. These are UHE, with the founder Urs Heckmann, and Bitwig. Those are very popular company, I would say, in the industry. And I particularly want to cooperate with them because the CLAP API can potentially unlock the true power of GPU audio, because right now we have some limitations because of the VST3 API, and we have like, I don't know, like maybe 150 or maybe more with RTX 3090 GPU FIR convolver running within 1 millisecond latency. Without VST3 standard in our private console tests, we have like 1,000 or 2,000 channels running. And we see for the opportunities to unlock the same experience for our users, so for the industry, right? So I see personally that the new uprising standard, CLAP standard, can potentially bring this finally, at least for Bitwig, though, at least for probably for some UHE plugins or for any other plugin that is running for Clap Standard. So I'm pretty much looking forward to connect with you guys. Urs, Alexandre Big, there's a guy in the Bitwig team that particularly implemented this standard. Please call
We're
back
here.
to me. Please.
Check your
Yeah,
DMs,
please
guys.
reply back. Yeah,
Check those DMs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're sliding into the DMs. That's I'm actually notorious for that on LinkedIn, is like sliding into some CEOs DMs uninvited. But it's just the way that it is these days. But actually, we've had some great conversations with people over in the Clap organization, and they're super supportive. I mean, you cannot meet a better group of people, in my opinion, that are more open-minded and more excited and willing to help. So just huge shout out to them. I totally agree with Sasha. I think they're like, at the top of my list. Frankly, I would love to see more DAW, digital audio workstation, for those who don't know, DAWs adopt this too, because when we're talking about unlocking standards, it's not obviously the first plugins that we released are in the VST3 format, but like Sasha was saying, it's limited and it doesn't seem like those limits are really changing anytime soon. So, adopting new formats of plugins is essential. I mean, we're working on audio units. We're beginning to look at AAX. There's a lot of cool formats that are compelling out there. But I think, Clap is a low hanging one that's a lot of energy around it, a lot of good energy right now. So for me, I think I would just agree with Sasha. That's an ideal company. I still have my bucket list items of, cool companies. Personally, this is kind of a pipe dream, but I would love to see some high level DSP audio interfaces, do some experiments with GPU embeds. So if there's anybody out there listening who is working on audio
DSP.
interfaces, yeah, neural DSP, holler, or just anybody doing cool hardware, that's an area that I really think this tech could scale, because your hardware could take advantage of a GPU on board, have 100 times the amount of performance, that you normally have for a little bit more money in terms of production. And then at the same time, you would be able to potentially connect this to a cloud of GPUs to scale the amount of DSP that's available for your users. So that's a concept that I've got in my head that I would love to find the right partner for that hardware, where it's hardware that can scale to the cloud as needed and connect to larger servers. So I guess that's my way of answering that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It looks like we have one audience question.
Oh, cool.
So Cecile Keebler from YouTube asked, as with increasing the number of GPU cores on a single core is hopefully a good thing, how does this all work with multiple GPU cards on the same machine?
Well, the scheduler can run on pretty much any amount of GPUs. We don't support this today. We don't support this experience for the users yet, but we have the internal support already working. So there might be potential. You can unite them together with NVIDIA SLI, or what's the modern day standard. I'm not sure. I just forgot the name of the standard. Sorry. NVLink. Yeah. So you can bring them together, unite as one beast. I would say, if you want to run, I don't know what, a spaceship to the moon, audio powered spaceship to the moon. And you can actually run them all with the time. We just need to provide you with better interfaces, how we can actually manage GPUs, how you can decide what GPU do you want to use for the Pro Audio, because I know there are desktop-based people, there are people have edges in their houses, in the studios, and they want to manage it all. And we just need to have more time to complete the better good design to provide you with such opportunity to manage GPUs.
Yeah, and Cecil, I would also suggest that it's not going to just be about multiple GPU cards on the same machine, but you'll be able to connect this to your local network as well. So, we're going to try to make it a lot easier once it gets implemented into a user-facing feature, so that you don't have to reinstall multiple GPUs into a similar system. You can just access maybe your gaming PC on the network and get more DSP if that's what you need.
Yeah, NVIDIA spent a lot of time focusing on this, not just in, obviously we're always making faster GPUs, but also connecting those GPUs to each other within a system, but also looking at multiple systems and being able to use that as sort of a pool of compute for different purposes. And we have a lot of partners that are doing this today, that one GPU isn't enough to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. So they're spanning multiple GPUs and multiple GPUs in multiple systems. And NVIDIA has its own networking division that helps to create a really fast interconnect so that all of these GPUs can talk to each other very quickly. And the interfaces between GPUs as well within a system are getting faster with PCIe 4 and PCIe 5. And so the ability to look at a bunch of GPUs and sort of treat them as one opens up a lot of new possibilities.
Yeah, by the way, guys, this networking department is called Mellanox, I guess. And this is just another topic, like 45 minutes long, because for me, this acquisition means quite a lot. And this is actually what brought NVIDIA to such current modern days state when they are powering up cloud-based solutions and making actually becoming the software company. And Mellanox one of the keys to this point. So I believe that there is a potential of what we can discuss for the upcoming videos. So stay tuned.
Oh, big time.
That's awesome. We got another question in. Will it be possible to do FIR in real time by taking a 1-second sample and splitting it into 1,000 parallel FFT processes and merging it for latency of 1 millisecond?
So I actually saw this question already, and it seems that this guy knows something. Well, basically, this is what we are naturally doing. And the scheduler as a technology, it runs hundreds of independent tasks, something that you can't do out of the box of CUDA or any other framework or any other shader language or something like that. And we actually dispatching any task that requires any amount of resources, I mean threads or like cores allocated to process the task during the period of time. So can we do this technically? Yes. And our current performance level, as I mentioned, it is 1 to 1,000 channels of independent tasks, such as a GPU FIR convolver product is like convolution plus synthetical part, partition-based convolution. So yeah, we can do this, but I don't know whether is there any specific product requests. So just let me know.
Yeah, and actually, that's a great point. If you have a product request or some cool idea, the Discord is a really great place to go for that kind of stuff. It's a lively room. We have multiple channels. Basically, just for a reminder, GPU audio is in early access right now. Early access is a little bit before beta in the sense that we're still rolling out iterations. The latest version of our testing plugin called the FIR Convolver, or as we call it, the EAP, Early Access Plugin, which is just the most utilitarian engineered named thing ever. Thanks, Sasha. Let's just name it exactly what it is, nothing creative. But yeah, so with the Early Access Plugin, we now have the ability to do hot fixes. So the internal goal is to do a hot fix like every couple of weeks, or maybe like 2 hot fixes per month. So drop into the Discord, help us test it out. We're testing it out with new features now. That you can find out about those features in the Discord. And in particular, if you have ideas for products and those types of things, I mean, that's a great place to reach out. You can DM me. Oh, yeah. You just have to do the secret code word, what is my favorite color. So I know you're not a bot. My favorite color is blue. So if you go into the Discord and you message me, you have to start with that. Otherwise I won't respond. Or I'll just send you a meme or something. But yeah, that's a great place to reach. That's a great place to reach out and get in touch about any of those questions. I did say we have one more question. Do we have time to answer it, Jess?
Yeah, I think we have got a couple minutes. I definitely don't want to keep Jeremy too long. We've kind of taken a bunch of your time today. Archie 3D from YouTube asks or says, thanks for the discussion, and then asks, when can we expect to start playing with the SDK? Will we be able to use it as an embedded Linux platforms?
Oh, this guy, it seems that this guy also, we have a lot of people that read our chat, like internal JBS solution chat. So answering this question. So we are looking forward to release our plugins bundle. We originally planned to do so by July, and it took a little bit longer because we introduced AMD support. Sorry, Jeremy. And this is everything for the community, for the users, so we have to bring more stuff. And because of that, we are kind of shifting slightly the release. And I think that it will be happening during the August or something like that as its maximum. Almost right after the plugins bundle release, we are going to open some parts of the SDK, and we're going to promote the SDK use cases through the set of conferences where we plan to attend, such as ADC, such as AES. We will have a workshop during the next NVIDIA GTC, which will happening in the September, I guess, September 15 or something, right? And if you guys would like to learn more about the SDK, this is definitely the first point you will ever see our part of the SDK published. This is NVIDIA GTC workshop, specifically assigned for DLI, Deep Learning Institute. So just follow our Twitter, follow our social media pages, and you will be notified and you can attend.
Right, and I think the NVIDIA DLI, if I'm not mistaken, the workshop schedule goes up on Monday, right, Jeremy? Am I right about that?
I think so. I have to check.
Okay,
on that.
yeah, I think that's what they told me. So yeah, if you guys just look into NVIDIA GTC in the fall of 2022, and you'll be able to find that will be our breakout moment for that. In the audio community specifically too, we're still discussing the particulars around some AES appearances as well. So we have confirmed that we'll be in Latin America. So if we have anybody talking Latin America, we'll be giving a presentation down there with one of our partners, and we'll also be doing a webinar, I think, in about 10 days or so, where we're going to talk a little bit. SDK presentation at that conference in Latin America. We might get into some of it. There won't be a workshop, but I think that we might be able to share even more details. So thanks for asking, though. We know that developers are really looking forward to it. We want to get to it as soon as possible.
We've had yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I saw the last question, but I know Jeremy needs to go.
Before we let Jeremy go, because I know that this last question is probably going to be more geared toward you and Sasha. I just wanted to say that we've had a lot of great comments, maybe not a lot of questions, just saying, MIDI Error said, Jeremy is a legend. Great to hear from him and the team. A lot of people saying this is a great panel, great energy, really interesting discussion, lots of thanks. And they're all very excited to see like unique features that come up.
Yeah, thanks, Arian. Sam Hawking, I see you. Sam is our spatial audio fan. He's an awesome guy. Archie 3D, I see you in the chat. Thanks again, Cecil. Yeah, I did see that question that Arian had. Just want to know if RTX 3060 could handle stuff from GPU audio. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, a 3060 on a laptop is a great choice. And it's actually a great choice in terms of the budget of the laptop as well, right? So it's just a really good middle of the road thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, 2 cents here, guys. There are some deals on Amazon. You can buy RTX 3060 laptops for $750. It's like it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's so affordable. The power right now is so affordable. You don't need to wait for our own plugins. You can start experimenting with NVIDIA tools that are available for free for everybody. So just $750, you have the completely new gear. You can power up things that you didn't see before that.
Yeah, the prices are crazy. I mean, I've seen like 40% off at Micro Center and stuff like that on 3090 Ti's. Like there's a 3090 Ti going for like $1,500, which is outrageous because I paid like $2,500 for one a couple months ago, you know, because I'm dumb like that. It just, you know, that's how I roll. Spend money, lose money.
You get a lot of use out of it though, right? How many channels can you do on a 3090 Ti?
I haven't tested the Ti, but on my 3090, I think I've stress tested about 200 stereo convolution reverbs in real time with no latency.
Wow.
Or 1 millisecond. It's just nuts. So yeah, I'm excited for the bundles. By the way, final announcement for everybody. When the plugins bundles get released, they're going to be in 5 separate bundles that will eventually culminate to make the entire beta suite, as we call it. Those bundles will be announced really soon. I'll have something posted up in Discord and on socials. But if you're really curious about what the 5 bundles are named, just look at our YouTube channel About. Go to the About on our YouTube channel, and I posted the names of the bundles there. We'll post a particular plugin soon. Jeremy, thanks again. I know you got like a standing meeting on Fridays,
Thanks, man.
and we're probably getting you in trouble. So we hope you have a great day, and thanks for the partnership. This, working with you has been a bucket list item. So thanks, and we'll talk next week, I guess.
Been my pleasure.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jonathan.
so much, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody. Make sure you join us again next week on the Discord AMA, and in 2 weeks, we'll be doing another video live stream.
Yep. And watch out for a hot fix on the plugin in the next few days.
Awesome.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.